So if you've seen any videos on my channel, you know I am literally a lifelong Carolina Panthers fan. I've been here as a fan since the very first game as a kid. I was at my grandpa's house. It was them versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. They both entered the league together, and they were in the very first preseason game, the Hall of Fame game. So yeah, I've literally been a Panthers fan throughout the whole history. So I figured, you know what? Let me list my top 5 Panthers players of all time. So this is my list. Uh, there were some hard ones to leave off the list. I won't lie to you. This was very, very hard. So I will start off with some honorable mentions. And yes, I know I'm going to leave a few off the list. I did leave Christian McCaffrey off. I just feel like he wasn't with us long enough. So yeah, if you disagree with my list, so be it. But this is my personal list. So the first honorable mention, as you could tell on the screen, is tight end Greg Olsen. So he has the third most yards in Carolina Panthers history, receiving yards, and he has the fourth most touchdown catches in Panthers history. So yeah, he's pretty high up there in Panther statistics. Like I said, he wasn't in my top 5. I know you can hate me if you want, but yeah, no. Respect to Greg Olsen. He for sure was one of my favorites. He made lots of big plays. He was all reliable. You know, he was the Panthers' Jason Witten for 5 to 10 years. So it was very hard to leave him off the list. Trust me, it was hard. But yeah, no, like I said, I'll for sure have to give him a shout out. And yeah, let's move on with the shout outs. So my second shout out is to D'Angelo Williams. D'Angelo Williams has the second most rushing yards in Panthers history, and he has the third most rushing touchdowns in Panthers history. Like I said, he was great, but I just felt like he wasn't good enough to make the top 5 of all time. But he's definitely great enough to make the honorable mentions list. You'll see another beloved running back at the very end of this honorable mentions. But yeah, D'Angelo Williams. Shout out to D'Angelo. So the third one on my honorable mentions list is Jake Delhomme. So before Cam, I feel like Jake Delhomme was our most consistent quarterback, right? As you could tell from the title of the video, I believe he was with the Panthers for 6 years. But yeah, you know, he led us to our first Super Bowl. So he was going to be on this list somewhere. I don't know. I just felt like he wasn't that good enough to be on the top 5. Like I said, it was a very hard list to make, but Jake Delhomme is second all time in Panthers history for passing yards with 19,000. And he has the second most passing touchdowns in Panthers history also with 120. So yeah, second best quarterback stat wise the Panthers have ever had. Once again, he was one of my favorites personally, so it was very, very hard to leave him off this list. Like he's definitely been one of my fan favorites since I've been a Panthers fan. But say we got to go best of the best. This next one was by far the hardest to leave off the top 5. Very, very hard. Like, hey, if he's in your top 5, this next one, I definitely wouldn't be mad at it. So yes, another honorable mention. Like I said, he was so hard to leave off the top 5. He was one of my favorite defensive players ever on the Panthers. Like top 3 favorite on the defense. It was just so hard to make this list, man. But for real, shout out to Thomas Davis. You know, a part of that 15-1 team. He is 8th in Panthers history in interceptions. He's first in tackles, solo tackles. He's the Carolina Panthers all-time leader, and he's second all-time in tackles for losses in Panthers history. Yeah, that was very, very hard to leave him off, man. There's somebody on the list that I struggled with. You know, I wasn't sure who should go fifth. You'll definitely know it when you see him. But yeah, Thomas Davis, huge shout out, man. Like, oh, it was so hard to leave him off top five. But next up is the last honorable mention. Then we'll get into my top five of all time. So this was a very hard one also to leave off the list. Jonathan Stewart, once again, was one of my favorites. You know, just the longevity with the Panthers organization. You know, he's kind of on the smaller side, which I'm a short dude, so it was nice to see him out there repping for the short guys. But man, he was a beast. So Jonathan Stewart is actually first in Panthers history in rushing yards with 7,318, and he's second all time in rushing touchdowns for the Carolina Panthers with 51. So this guy for sure is a beast, was a beast. Like I said, once again, it was very hard to leave him off the top five. I struggled with it. Honestly, I really did. Like I said, first in rushing yards, second in rushing touchdowns. Just his impact, you know, his longevity. It was very hard, man. Very hard. But yeah, we're finally gonna jump in the top five. Let's do it. I'm sure you can pretty much guess at this point from the lack of honorable mention who those five players are. Let's get it. So at number 5 on my all-time Carolina Panthers list is Luke Kuechly. So as I said, I really struggled between him or Thomas Davis, but I just feel like Luke had more of an all-around impact in the game. You know, I feel like he was kind of the floor general, if you will. You know, in basketball, there's a floor general. I just feel like he was the point guard on the defense. You know, like he was just that guy on our defense. So he's third in interceptions in Panthers history. A linebacker third in history. That's pretty awesome. He has 18 interceptions all time for the Panthers. He's second all time in solo tackles for the Panthers with 690. He's fourth in tackles for loss. And get this stat. This is pretty awesome. He's the only Carolina Panther player to have a pick six, a fumble recovery for a touchdown, and a safety. All those things, he's the only Panthers player to have that. Like, I feel like that's pretty awesome. Like I said, that's kind of why he's on my list, because he was just like an all-around beast of a player. Especially, you know, of course, he showed up in the playoffs too. But Luke is just one of my personal favorites. Honestly, I would say he's my favorite Carolina Panther defender ever. Hands down. You know, I really wish I could have been in the crowd saying Luke. That's one of my big regrets, is not being able to see him play live. But yeah, no. Luke Kuechly, fifth on my all-time Carolina Panthers list. I did originally have him third, but I feel like there's one more player that's kind of better, and you'll see who I switched them out for. I swapped my third and fifth pick, so you'll see that in a second. So my fourth Carolina Panther player all time, Muhsin motherfucking Muhammad. So Muhsin Muhammad, once again, one of my favorite. He was just electric, you know, and kind of like Greg Olsen, he was Mr. Reliable. You know, I feel like anytime he was throwing the ball, he caught it and he could have made some magic with it. So Muhsin Muhammad is second all time on the Panthers receiving yards list with 9,255. He's second in receiving touchdowns with 50. And he's second in receptions, 696. So, yeah, On the all-time list, he's second in all the receiving categories. He was just a beast and reliable, and just that safety blanket, that you had as a kid. That's what Moosin was. But like, look at that play right there. He was electric too, man. He was just an all-around great player for the Panthers. I am glad he did get to finish his career with us. He did go to the Bears for a while, but yeah, Muhsin Muhammad. Yeah, he's fourth on my list. Let's go to number 3. So at number 3, I have Julius Peppers. So Julius Peppers is probably the first defensive player that ever stood out for me on the Panthers. And he was like maybe our first great player. But yeah, he was always one of my favorites, especially when he was just on fire. Like, yeah, Julius Peppers was really fun to watch. And once again, I'm glad he got to come back to the Panthers too. That was awesome. Got to see him in Panthers blue one more time. But Julius Peppers is 8th all-time on the Panthers list for tackles with 349. He's first in tackles for a loss with 107. He's also first in sacks with 97 all-time for the Panthers. That's 30 more than second place on the Panthers all-time list. He also has the longest interception yardage for a Panthers player. That was 97 yards against the Broncos. It was almost a pick six, but they caught him in the red zone. He caught it in the end zone, and yeah, almost ran it all the way back. It would have been awesome if he would have got that, pick six. It would have been 100 and something, but yeah, 97 yards, longest interception, and he's also first in forced fumbles with 34. So just all around impact. Like I said, tackles for loss, sacks, longest interception, forced fumbles. He was just everywhere. Like, that's what I loved about him. He had that hustle in him. He was just a beast all around. Yeah, shout out to Julius Peppers, 3rd all time on my Panthers list. Let's go to 2nd. So I got to keep it real with y'all. This was a hard one. I'll be honest. This was the hardest one on the list. To decipher from 1st or 2nd, I could not decide because the top 2 players are my 1 and 2 favorite players in Panthers history. If you would have asked me this back in high school, Steve Smith was by far my favorite Carolina Panther ever. Yeah, Steve Smith. It's just not many negative things I could say about him. Like, what a beast. What a playmaker, game changer, all of it. Steve Smith, I don't think there will ever be another great Panthers receiver like him in history. He was just all around amazing to watch. I'm a Mavs fan. He's like watching Luka. He's like watching Steph Curry, Patrick Mahomes. You just never knew what he was going to do. Like, with the yards after catch, he was just amazing, man. Shout out to Steve Smith. He's first in Panthers receiving yards with 12,197. That's almost 3,000 more receiving yards than second place, which is Muhsin Muhammad, as you see in the video. He's first in receiving touchdowns with 67. He's first in receptions at 836. I believe that's about 150 more than Muhsin Muhammad at second place. So this is an awesome stat. He has the most punt return yards plus punt return touchdowns for the Panthers ever. And he has the second most kick return touchdowns and yards. So, like I said, all around game changer, playmaker. There was nothing this man could not do. That's why it was so hard to put him at number 2, because I loved and adored Steve Smith. He just had that swagger. Like, it's so hard, man. And I do regret not getting his jersey when I had the chance when I was back in high school, because now that thing is super expensive, since he's a legend now. But, man, yeah, that's one of my big regrets, is not getting a Steve Smith jersey when I had the chance. But, yeah, like I said, he's 1B on my favorite Panthers players of all time. He's up there. Like I said, I enjoyed watching him so damn much. Um, just a great player. Let's get to number one. I'm sure you know who it is by now. So my number one Carolina Panther of all time, my number one favorite player in Panthers history, Cameron Newton. So he is first on the all-time Carolina Panthers passing yards list. He has nearly 30,000 more passing yards than Jake Delhomme. And he has, 10,000 more. I don't know if I said that wrong. I think I said that wrong. But yeah, he has nearly 30,000 passing yards in Panthers history, and that's 10K more than Jake Delhomme. So he is also the passing touchdowns leader in Carolina Panthers history with 186. That's 66 more than Jake Delhomme. He has the longest passing touchdown in Panthers history at 91 yards. He has this is an insane stat. He has the third most rushing yards in Panthers history with 5,000. Of over 5,000, but still that's insane. He's the third highest leading rusher in Panthers history. That's so fucking awesome, in my opinion. He has the most rushing touchdowns in Panthers history as well, 63. You just saw one of them right there. I loved seeing Cam Newton's touchdown celebrations. That's why he's my favorite player. Because as you see the MVP season, watching him dance all season long, it was probably the greatest joy I've felt in my life. Those 3 to 5 months of seeing the Panthers just destroy everyone, I don't believe I've ever been happier on football Sundays than that. Like, I was smiling ear from ear. It was just an amazing time. I don't know if any of my favorite teams will ever capture that again. But man, so he also has the third longest rushing touchdown in Panthers history with 72 yards. That's pretty crazy. Of course, as we're watching right here, he is the only Carolina Panthers MVP in history. And it's this season, the one we're watching right now. And of course, as I mentioned, he led the Panthers to the best record in franchise history, 15-1, 2015-2016. Honestly, I cannot say enough things about Cam Newton. I just said it. Watching him every Sunday was a treat, man. It was a treat. Like, it really does hurt me how much of a cliff he fell off, because in his prime, it was just electric. It was must see TV, man. I have, of course, as you've seen, I have his jersey. It was my first ever Panthers jersey too. I just love him. Like, the swagger, the dancing, the skill, the stats. Just, I wish we would have won that Super Bowl, man. I wish we would have won that Super Bowl. It would have really cemented him as the best Panthers player in history. Like I said, I know there's some debate. I know some people may think Steve Smith is the best Panther, and I would not be mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. But my personal opinion, Cam Newton, like I said, the stats speak for themselves. First in passing yards, first in passing touchdowns, third most rushing yards, most rushing touchdowns. The guy was just amazing. Yeah, I hate that it ended the way it did, sincerely. But he also did give me a great moment 2 years ago with the "I'm back." That was amazing. That was another great moment. I mean, I know the good moment only lasted that first game, but it was just so great to see him back in a Panthers jersey. It just felt like all was right in the world in that moment. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know your top 5 Panthers list. I really want to hear them. If you somehow made it this far, I really want to hear your top 5 Panthers players. Because like I said, I'm a lifelong fan. I've been literally watching since the very first game, the very first preseason game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your favorite players. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a top 5 list. Just give me your favorite Panthers player. I love everything about the Panthers. Their colors, the logo. Yeah. Let me know. Let me know what you thought. Let me know your thoughts. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you.